All right, my friends, welcome to episode 274 of Prof and Dev Play Games. This is the Game of the Year discussion, part 2, games that we actually played. My name is Larry, at Prof Plays Games on Twitter. Over there is Anthony. He's a dev, at Summer Speak. How's it going this weekend?
It's going okay. We're recording on my last day of vacation. I have to work tomorrow. I love my job, but man, in COVID times, I'm like, I don't want to go back and do anything. I've enjoyed having less other things to do.
Mm-hmm. Do you also go back to homeschooling tomorrow?
No. We shifted our things a little bit so that we did 1 week off around Christmas and that week. Then we did school this past week. And then they're off next week because next week is my wife's busiest week of the entire year, work-wise.
Oh, yeah. In terms of taxes and stuff.
Bookkeeping. Yeah, she doesn't do taxes, but she has a lot of stuff that she has to get done for all her clients in January.
Right.
So that people can file taxes. And she has to do quarterly taxes for a bunch of her clients. But she doesn't actually do their taxes. She decided long ago that she wasn't going to do that after like 1 year of doing it. She's like, nope, not interested in doing
I don't like doing my own. I would not like to do other people's.
Yeah. So we just split our vacation a little bit, which makes my kids really happy because it's games done quick this week.
I know. I saw that today. That's cool.
They have already, we do usually have limits on screen time, but twice a year, Games Done Quick is on. They get extra screen time to watch speedruns that they like. So that's awesome. They've gone through their lists and being like, okay, we want to watch that. There's a Minecraft dungeon speedrun in there. There's some different Zelda speedruns. My daughter's always into the Zelda speedruns. They weirdly want to see the Hades speedrun, which I think is Tuesday, which I'm going to totally watch. It's a category which I've watched other streamers run before, which is...
Is it fresh file?
No, it's not fresh file. It's 3 weapons.
Okay. Oh.
So pick any three weapons. You have to finish 3 times in a row with three different weapons. So it makes for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minute speedruns. A little bit longer. Yeah, I've seen fresh file. Fresh file is insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Which is neat. But I would say my favorite that I've watched is just the any heat. Sorry, not any percent. Any heat.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because that's usually people have everything unlocked and they're just making crazy, crazy builds that are insane. Because fresh file, you just don't get all those things. You can't really pull the crazy combinations together.
No. Yeah. It's still just awe-inspiring to see someone go through with the sword and just
wreck everything.
With nothing. Yeah, shout out to my friend Bill, by the way, who's probably listening. We talked yesterday on the phone about some work stuff that's pretty sensitive, pretty complicated, pretty nuanced for about an hour. And then we switched over to 20 minutes of talking about Hades builds. Just so great to go from some super serious, super serious work shit to now let's talk about Hades.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So between your talk and his talk, I just am now consistently getting to second form of Hades and, beating him probably every third time. So it feels good. But I imagine we're going to talk about Hades later.
I bet we will.
We'll see, I think. But Game of the Year talk. I had a list of actually 14. I told you before 13, but I actually had 14 games that I spent a lot of time with this year and culled the top 5 from that list. And it was fairly easy to pick the top 4, but number 5 was a little challenging. How about you?
Similar. It maybe a little bit less. There's 5 games that I'm like, okay, once I listed out the ones I had played, that I was like, yeah, these ones are far and above better than every other game I played. Just hands down. There's a pretty stark line there between quality. And then one, I realized I did have 14, and one I was like, oh, this is the one I'd be between that 5th spot. It didn't actually come out on the PlayStation this year. It was last year.
Oh, okay.
So it came out on PC this year, just in January. But it came out on console and stuff, and where I would have been playing it would have been, I think, this November or December of the year before. I just didn't play it until later. So
I'll tell you, that didn't stop me from putting one of those on my list.
I think I'm still happy with what I put as number 5.
That was my agonizing decision because it was a game that did not come out this year, but I spent a ton of time with it this year, and it might as well have come out this year, and we'll get into that, of course. I think we'll go 5-1, right? Start in 5 and go up.
Yep.
So why don't you start us off with? Oh, by the way, so how our game of the year works is each game on our list gets a point, 1 point for fifth, 2 points for fourth, 3 for third, 4 for second, and then 5 for first, and then we do addition and add together, and whichever game has the highest total is our collective game of the year. So we'll see how that math works at the end. But we're going to start with number 5 with Anthony. Your 5th favorite, happiest, whatever, joyful game of the year. What is it?
It is Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Which, I think we've talked before. It is the perfect game for 2020. I haven't touched it in a while, but when I was consistently playing it after it had come out, and for a few months there, it was that daily check-in. I was discussing things at work. I was visiting islands of different coworkers, us tracking the stock market together, all of our different stock markets, to know who was going to have the big spike, and jumping to people's islands to sell turnips. It brought Animal Crossing to a much even wider audience than ever before. I think it's probably over 20 million sold now. Like, ridiculous. And
Nintendo could have had nothing else this year and been floating in money.
Yeah. It's been pretty incredible there. And just from a gameplay standpoint, the Animal Crossing games always shock me in, one, their simplicity. It goes pretty much against what game design has gone to in these games in a lot of ways. They don't push for like super complicated things, and they drive people to measure out their experience over time in weeks and months, not just sit down and binge the game.
Right.
And there's something to be said about having that routine coming back. And I mean, even when you start it takes a week, 2 weeks before you really get to the meat of the game, because you can't even get across the rivers at the beginning of the game. Like, you're just stuck to a small part of your island, and then that expands, and then you have to be able to get up to the hills. And so it just is a game of, over time, giving you more to see and more to do, and there's always this next enticing thing just a day away or 2 days away. And I can come in, check in, collect some bugs, check what's going on in the stock market, the stores, and then head out for a bit. And so I think it's probably, as the year has gone on, the best ongoing Animal Crossing that they've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I still think I prefer New Leaf overall, in just how it flowed together initially, but I feel like as they've added things to New Horizons with the different events and stuff, it has kind of elevated it. Like, I even thought about logging in for New Year's, because there was all sorts of special New Year's stuff going on in the game.
Yeah,
which I'm like,
I logged in for Christmas, but not New Year's.
I know, and I'm like, I haven't touched this thing, but there's still this. I'm like, maybe I should pick it up and start playing it again. Which I might. We'll see what my neighbors say to me if they hate me.
That's always the thing, right? You come in there kind of like lightly guilt you for not being there.
Yeah, I think it's light. I think it's even lighter in this game than it was in previous games, from what I've heard.
Oh God, New Leaf felt like it was really harsh when I would log in after like a year.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why'd you leave us?
What? You're the mayor. Where the fuck are you? At least this one, you're not the mayor.
Yeah. But I did play it enough. I mean, I rolled credits in it. Got my concert.
Oh yeah.
The KK Slider concert.
Mm-hmm.
And started doing some island management. I mean, this game does give you full control over how you want to make your island look in the end. You can terraform the crap out of it.
Right.
Again, it just takes time. If you invest the time in it, this can be whatever you can make this game whatever you want it to be. I think that's one consistent thing on at least one other game on my list is I'm respecting a lot of games that really reward people who put time into it, or reward you also in not putting a ton of time into it. They can be either way, and there's just more as you play, which I appreciate quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a game that I spent a lot of time on this year toward the summertime, and then I would come back in for Thanksgiving, Christmas. It gave my daughter and I something to kind of like holiday-wise look forward to. But the two things that kind of held it back for me were the slow quality of life stuff. Like to craft something. You have to go through the whole
True.
craft discussion choice. Do you want to craft again, and go through the whole animation again? And then just how much money I need to like build a bridge or like, develop the island for the KK Slider concert. It's just like I'm not making that much money, and I obviously am not maximizing how I do that. But then my daughter kind of lost interest, and then I kind of did too. But it was awesome for what it was when we played it. And I might, if the Slider concert is kind of like the end credit thing, I'm probably closer to it than I think I am. I might go back and finish it.
Yeah, it's effectively the end. I say in quotes, but
right.
It's kind of like the big thing that you build towards, and then it happens.
Right.
So.
Right. Cool. Well, my number 5 just kind of blows up the convention of our lists a little bit. I was really debating whether it would be Astro's Playroom, which ultimately did not make it, or No Man's Sky. And I put No Man's Sky on here, the Origin/Next Generation update. And I know that they have been doing updates since 2016, and there's probably some things that are in this new update that, were in last year's update or whatever that I just don't know about. But it kind of feels like it's now the game, or close enough to the game that they said it would be in 2016. And for me, it was just such an engaging sandbox. More than any other game this year, I would sit down on my gaming night at like 10 o'clock, and usually I play for 2 hours, and then I would look at the clock and it was 2. And I was like, where the hell did the time go? I was just having so much fun exploring and building and mining and scanning. And I know this happened in an earlier update, but the multiplayer component that I hadn't seen until now, like kind of like juxtaposes that lonely experience with some sort of like sense of camaraderie or something. Like you're in this together alone kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like the exploration was tuned well enough that there were short and long-term like rewards that I felt really that treadmill kind of experience, maybe that dopamine hit or whatever. And I felt like the upgrade system was also pretty satisfying, either upgrading your ship, your cargo, your, finding a new ship or adding new slots to your, backpack or whatever. I was always kind of lightly grinding for something. And it was a nice experience to also have it as my audiobook game, where I was listening to Barack Obama's audiobook or another audiobook while I was playing, because you don't really need to listen to what's going on. And it just really got into I don't think I've really gotten into a sandbox game before like this. Like I feel like maybe Minecraft is a similar experience. You're just exploring, mining, building. It just finally connected with me, like really for like 2 months. Like this is all I wanted to play. And then on the PS5, like I'm thinking about it being like a new experience is just how full the planets are, and how there seems to be more to see and more to do in terms of how like dense the planets are with things. Kind of a couple points against it, as I still feel like the main story is just like okay. It doesn't seem too compelling to me, the Artemis or the journey to the center of the universe. And then if you're a person who can't really play a game where you have to create your own goals instead of kind of follow whatever the game wants you to do, then it's maybe not the game for you. But I had a good time just setting my own goals. So I kind of agonized for a long time about putting this game on instead of one that like literally came out this year. But in the end, I thought, it's my list. It's number 5. And I honestly had more fun with this than the rest of them, even though Astro's Playroom was real close, but for a different reason. So that's my number 5.
All right, then. My number 4 is Ghost of Tsushima, which I expect will probably be on your list somewhere.
I'm like, do I say anything? I'm just going to be quiet.
It is by far, I kind of think, the best open world game outside of Breath of the Wild for me. Art style, amazing. Its dedication to the samurai movie feeling, great. The lack of UI, that all comes together. The combat is really good generally. Sometimes it can be kind of annoying, but for the most part I really enjoyed the combat. It had good upgrade paths. It kind of just, like I said, took everything from the open world genre games, the Assassin's Creeds, the Horizon, all those type of games, and kind of tuned it into a really, really good package. Like I said, I still prefer, I think, Breath of the Wild overall is for a game about just exploring, which my one thing to say about Ghost of Tsushima is sometimes aspects of its exploration feel very samey, like the Fox Dens or the Hot Springs. Yeah. Like, you've seen the Fox Den tree, the Fox Den tree. Like, it's a very stereotypical open world thing. Like AC Valhalla did not make my list. But it follows that AC formula of like, yep, I see that thing, I know what that thing is, which I get from a design standpoint. They want you to have that visual pattern recognition of like, yep, that's the thing I do here. But it does, I think, break some immersion at some point where it's like,
Right.
I'm exploring the world. Oh yeah, it's the same tree I've seen 100 times. Cool.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, but it's one of those things that I wish they would have pushed farther away from, and just been a little bit more organic with finding things. Because they do that in different areas, like the shrine puzzle areas.
Right. Yep.
Those are pretty organic. Like you see it on the road, you see the little tour gate, and you kind of follow those, and each one is a little bit different and has different kind of a different puzzle to solve. And those felt really good.
Those are my favorite parts of the game,
exactly.
to be honest. Those shrines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were really cool. And I think I wish that had been, I understand it not being, but wish it had been expanded to other elements of the smaller collectibles. So other than that, like I unfortunately didn't finish the story. I need to go back. I really enjoyed the story. I got Ghost Form. It was awesome. It felt like a high point. And then I was like, why isn't the game over? Like, I just want to go wreck things and be done. I don't want a whole nother act to play through.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's where I hit. I just hit the third act and I was like, this is a lot. And I guess I could just rush through it to finish it.
Yeah.
It's point.
Pretty short if you just mainlined it. Yeah.
But I had also been doing everything else. So it was this like conflict of interest of being like, I just kind of want to finish it, but I was been doing everything as well. But Ghost Form was incredible. It had really good high points there. Characters were really well done. Voice acting was great, Japanese and English. Yeah, I think it's just like it is a very, very solid open world game and a great way to end the generation for Sony in a lot of ways.
Right.
Being like, here's a culmination of this type of game into a very, very compelling package.
I think it's also a really good way to end the generation for Sucker Punch because they started with Second Son, which felt to me, I couldn't even finish that game. It just felt like just over and over the same shit.
Yeah.
And this had, like you say,
some
pieces of that.
I mean, Sucker Punch didn't get completely divorce themselves from that, but
no.
They did a lot better in this. Like, they worked very hard to kind of improve on the no UI was great too.
Oh yeah,
I want more games to do no UI.
Yep. I mean, I'm pushing games that I'm playing to do that. Like Immortals Phoenix Rising has like a bunch of UI that you can turn off, and I just fucking turn it all off because it's so much better without it.
Yeah, and I mean that's where you take Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild works so good because it has such minimal UI. Like,
right.
Everything is very diegetic about how you plan where you're going to go, get in the tower, look out, pin things on a map. Like, there's something to that. It makes the open world feel like you're exploring it more than it's telling you.
Right. Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about Immortals is that it's very much the Ubisoft. We're going to tell you where to go. Here's all the pins.
Yeah.
If you want to. If you don't want to do that, don't do it. And then it's just completely blank, which is kind of nice. You can go both ways.
Yeah.
I think if I'd played that game more, it might be number 5 on my list, but I did not, unfortunately. For me, number 4 on my list is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I fucking loved this game when I was playing it. Like, could not get enough. I'm close to the platinum. Just looked forward to playing every single night. Was so engrossed in the story and the gameplay. And then after I stopped playing it, I just kind of forgot about it. It's kind of like one of those summer blockbusters that are like so fun and amazing when you're there. And then you leave the theater and like 2 weeks later, you're like, what was that about? But I thought it was a really lean and focused experience. I know some people have said like this is, Spider-Man 2018 with the fat cutoff, and it really, really is to me. I think 2018 is great. I finished it, but it's bloated, and this is not. The combat abilities are awesome. There are 4 instead of 8 or 10 from 2018, so it's a lot easier to manage. And then you have the Venom abilities on top of that, which is like the electricity abilities. I don't know if you've seen the videos or anything like that, but you're able to add.
Miles.
Say it again?
That fits Miles' powers. It's
awesome.
And everything.
It works really well in the game. So you kind of layer that on top of the normal kind of gadget abilities, and it's really a lot of fun. It's just like moment-to-moment gameplay is just fun. The combat is really fun. Character development I thought was pretty cool with the cutscenes and kind of it went in places that were fairly predictable, but still had some emotional punch. The story was pretty compelling. I thought that obviously Spider-Verse is never, in my view, going to be topped, but they do a pretty good job of telling their own Miles story here, between Miles and then the main antagonist and the side characters. It's like if you'd want to watch Spider-Verse again for the story, I would want to play this again for the story.
Nice.
I thought that good. The animations were awesome. Obviously, the animations from 2018, it builds on that. But it feels very smooth, especially when you're playing the 60 FPS, man. It's just so silky smooth. And then the 2018 Spider-Man had a bunch of different training exercises throughout the city. I don't know if you played 2018 Spider-Man.
No.
But you could do like combat challenge or stealth challenge or takedown challenge or gadget challenge or something like, or a racing challenge. Can't remember what it was. But they have the same kind of challenges here, but they're pared down and they're like 3 levels for 3 different ones, and that's it. So it just like distills a lot of like the tutorials and the training and everything else from 2018 just to like a very it's like if you have a game and then you iterate and iterate and iterate and cut off the things you don't really need. Like this is what 2018 should have been. And it just shines. And the last thing I'd say on a positive note is just the voice acting is really strong. A couple negatives would be that it's super similar to 2018, but just way better because of the lack of bloat. So I think some people would say it's not really a new game, but it totally is. And then the one of the main characters, Finn, who, if you've played the game, you know who that is, I think was interesting, but I think they could have done a lot more with that character and developed that character more. And I think that kind of plays into some people's complaints that the game was too short. I don't think it was. I think it was just right, but I think that they could have built that character out a little bit more. But other than that, it was awesome. It was a great, between this and Astros, like a great introduction to the PS5. And it was just fast loading, beautiful looking 4K, or you could do 60 FPS. Great game.
Yeah, that seems like who did that? Insomniac?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're the only ones that truly got the fast loading, like true fast travel and fast loading going.
Right.
Like other games have to a point, like Valhalla on the PS5. Its loading is pretty fast, but there's still a noticeable 10-ish seconds between quick travels, where everything I've seen in Miles Morales is like it's instantaneous.
It is almost instantaneous.
Like, take a blink in a way that there.
Sorry, go ahead.
You blink and you're there.
Yeah, but in a way where like Insomniac like really dug down on that to make sure it would be fast, and versus Valhalla is like, we're just going to make our game, and then because of your hardware it'll load fast, but we didn't optimize it for that at all.
And it definitely feels like Insomniac like really pushed on that a lot, which makes sense. They used 2018 Spider-Man as a tech demo for PS5,
right, to show
hardware
how fast
stuff.
the loads
Yeah, back in earlier in 2020. So, but still, I've been impressed watching videos of that. I want to play this game. I will play this game at some point.
It's fucking great. It's really good.
Yeah, it looks incredible. I've watched just some videos of kind of like the very early part of it, beginning of it, and the animation is incredible. And it seems like the controls plus the animation just make you feel like a complete and total superhero badass.
Yep. That's probably one of my, I don't know, I really like Arkham Asylum, but it might be my favorite superhero game. It's, a shortish experience that I think that you would enjoy. Did you, I might have asked this already, did you play 2018 Spider-Man?
Nope. No, I haven't. I figured if I got Miles Morales, I would get the edition that has both of them in there.
Yeah, you should for sure. Yep. But I don't know. I'd play this one first. It's the best.
Okay.
And then when you're done with it and you're like, wow, I wish that were longer, then you have
then you go to this other Spider-Man. Yeah.
I would just hate for you to be burned out and not get to Miles
That's
Morales.
true. That's the key part. And everything I've heard of the 2018 one, I probably, with how I go through open world games and stuff, I probably would burn out of it before finishing it, which is unfortunate, but that is a problem with open world games. And that's not just for me. That's a lot of people have that. So it's not that I don't get my enjoyment out of the games. I have a great time with them, but finishing them can be arduous at some points.
Especially if you're the type of player who kind of needs to, maybe not 100% complete every area, but a lot closer to 100% than like not.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can't let that go, and then I just stop.
Yep.
So, but that was my number 4.
So my 3 and 4 here were the ones we're switching back and forth which one would be 3 and which one would be 4. But inevitably I went with Ghost at 4 And Final Fantasy VII Remake at 3. Clearly, because
wow,
I
thought that'd be
finished
higher
it.
for you.
I finished
Yeah.
the 7 remake. And so, I mean, we've kind of talked about it last week because you hadn't played it, and it may have been on your list if you had. But
Yeah,
for
I think
me,
so.
it completely threads the needle of honoring what came before, but updating the story and gameplay for a modern era and modern
Right.
storytelling. And then does this crazy thing of also being on a commentary on what a remake should be and what it should be about. And when you say you're remaking something, what does that mean? Which adds a bunch of surprising twists and turns to the story and also twists to the characters, new and old. So yeah, things I enjoyed. I loved the new battle system. I think they don't call it active time battle in this. I can't remember the acronym that they update it to in the 7 remake, but it feels like an action version of the original turn ATB. I guess it is turn-based old JRPG, but it's not. I hate using the term turn-based. Real-time action taking back in the 7 because you don't pause. People just take their actions when their bars fill.
Right.
So there's not explicit turns going on. But this still had that feeling of like, okay, I'm in an action combat. I'm swinging my sword as Cloud, attacking things, doing really cool animation and action combat, but it's still tactical in that I'm choosing how I'm spending my my ATB points to do special abilities, cast spells, summons, and so it does something I've always wanted, which is having this action combat that feels tactical. And so I really enjoyed the combat, and I think I did even the challenge stuff that they had where you fight different summons to get the summons, which took a lot of work and could get kind of frustrating, but felt really good when you finished it. And that you could get like Shiva. What else did I get? Giant Chocobo.
Like as a mount?
No,
to ride around?
Summons.
Oh.
Fat Chocobo.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, different summon spells. And overall, like, it generally looked gorgeous except for those weird moments where there were low quality textures thrown in.
Did they ever fix that?
It's a bug. I don't know if they've actually fixed it yet, and I'm hoping they've come out and said that it's a bug. There was a problem with like level of detail settings on some objects. So I'm hoping it gets a PS5 update, and I think they've said it's going to get a PS5 update.
That'd be nice.
Because I think that this running at 60 would be incredible. It already looked amazing, and the particles were insane. So graphically, it was so good. It's really what you had, at least me, had in my head when you're playing the old PlayStation version. And the little polygon crap characters. They updated the characters brilliantly. I loved all of them. Loved how they're expanded. I love the side characters they expanded. It really added depth whenever you lost those characters. And really, in the first game, original game, they had a few lines of dialogue tops. In this, you get entire side stories and quests and just depth to these different characters, which felt really good. Trying to think of other high points where the music was great. Boss battles were updated really well.
For the music, they updated the other extant songs, obviously, but did they create new songs for this soundtrack as well?
Yes, some. Yes. It was kind of, mixed in. There was like, the closing theme was a completely new song with vocals and the whole thing, which is really good. The outro song. So I really enjoyed it. I finished it. And I enjoyed the story quite a bit and its commentary on that, but I think that will be a negative for a number of people, is that it's batshit insane. Like, and it goes there. When you hit the last couple chapters of this game, it is batshit anime insane. Like, and that's where it kind of challenges what a remake is, because it is asking you to have knowledge of the original game and other things around the game. This isn't just retelling you the story of the first game. It's saying, yeah, we're telling that story. We know that you know that story, so we're building on that and the other, like, Advent Children and other Final Fantasy media that has come out. Right. Because this isn't just a remake. It's also acting in some way as a kind of sequel to that stuff as well, in a weird way. So, like, you need to, like, I'm sure tons of people are like, who the hell is this other character that they keep showing at the end here? Because that no one's played Crisis Core. Weird spin-off game.
Wow, I didn't realize they went into that kind of detail.
Yeah, there's one character there that's like, they mention the character in 7, but that character got an entire game of their own, and they redo scenes at the end of that original game. That you wouldn't know if you hadn't played it. Like, that's why I said it's a weird take here on what a remake can be. And it's exciting for me because at least it sets up what could be next in the way of, well, I know they're not just going to do the next part of the game exactly of the original 7. Like, they're free to do what they want to do.
Seems like that would make it more exciting, where you're able to like re-experience what you loved in a new way while still having access to that thing you loved in its exact form in a different, game file, I guess.
For me, that's a big plus. I could see it being a big negative though for some.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all can enjoy media differently.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think I've come to the conclusion, like, because it's not on both of our lists, but I was seeing some discussion around like The Last of Us Part 2. And someone said it very clearly. They're like, because it was some streamer, and then their chat's like, it had bad writing. And I'm like, no, you need to understand. There's a difference between bad writing and not liking the story that's being told.
Right.
And like, The Last of Us 2 is incredible writing, actually. You just don't like the way they took the story, which is okay. Right. You don't have to like a story. Like,
right.
But I cannot look at it and say that game had objectively bad writing at all.
No, the game has amazing writing, amazing voice acting, direction, but you could still not like some of the things that happened.
Yeah, exactly, and that's okay. You're like,
that's great. And I don't like a lot of Hemingway, and it's still well written. Yeah,
which is a complete fine thing, and I think that's some of 7 remake and being like, you don't have to like the way they took the story. That's fine.
Right.
If it diverges too much for you and that's not what you wanted, that doesn't make it bad. That just doesn't make it what you want, which is okay. Move on.
Do you extend that logic to the Skywalker saga, the finale of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Except I will objectively say that one was the final chapter of that. Rise of Skywalker is just a bad movie.
Right.
Like, it is actually just poorly constructed mostly in the editing, and honestly that probably flows to the script as well. Like, I don't think the writing of the dialogue is necessarily bad. I think it's just structured very poorly, and tried to do way too much in one movie, and it shows because nothing. If you take any time to think about any plot point in that movie, it falls apart. You have to just be in the moment, moving from scene to scene.
Get kind of caught up in the hype or the excitement,
which is fine. It's an action movie and your adventure and you're going through it, but you cannot stop, because if you stop, it all falls apart, which that just makes, I'm like, and partially it was the frantic editing. It cuts so much and doesn't let things sit for any kind of impact. It plays things for laughs that shouldn't probably be played for laughs. So yeah, that's just my whole rant on episode 9 is it's just like, there are so many reasons this is actually just poorly constructed, not just because I don't like it. But a lot of the reasons I don't like it is because it was poorly constructed. Like, I'm sure it could have been a lot better if taken a little bit more time. But it felt very rushed. Like, the movie itself felt rushed, and it felt rushed to make them is probably why happened.
I feel like you're describing the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones as well.
It is.
All the same symptoms.
Yeah.
The rushing.
Yeah, and not giving things time to breathe.
Exactly.
And so, yes, take away any kind of negatives I have on the remake. I'm trying to think combat kind of got a little bit samey towards the end, a little bit frantic in some ways. In the last section, it does just go for it at the end in crazy ways. I'm okay with it, but it's definitely kind of a mess if you don't have understanding of what's going on. I can totally understand that point. Those weird graphic things. There's a couple characters that they put in through the game that you're like, why the fuck is this character here? They show up a couple times and then they're gone, and you're like, well, hopefully they show up in the next thing, because if they don't, that's just random and weird. I don't think they really add to the game. They're new characters that just don't add anything right now, and I just hope that they're set up for something later. But if you just take this game on its own, they don't set anything up, and they're just strange. trying to think, if I had any really big pacing problems with the game. I didn't. It stayed pretty fast in its clip through the entire thing. It was still like a 40-hour experience though. But it didn't feel like it drug at any point in time.
And you didn't have the Final Fantasy 15 experience where the back half was drastically different than the front half.
No, I mean drastically different, and it's telling you a freaking weird story, but
not in gameplay wise.
No, not in gameplay. In gameplay, it was probably some of the best parts of it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool. I keep wanting to get back to that, and hopefully I will in 2021. My number 3 is one that I don't think I've heard kind of hovering on different people's lists or near their lists, but never really hitting the lists. And it's Paper Mario and the Origami King. And for a lot of people, it doesn't hit their list because of basically the battles. Like there's no consequence for the battles that are not boss battles. You just get coins. You don't get experience. You're not leveling up anything. It's just coins that you kind of get anywhere. And for me, that actually was a positive because I played this whole game with my daughter. And if I had to stop at every single battle and like have to grind and level up, it would have just drug the pace down to a halt and would have been a bad experience. So I was actually happy that the non-boss battles were inconsequential and just kind of fun, and you could skip them if you wanted to. But for me, like the number one thing for Paper Mario is that the writing is fucking awesome. It's honestly... No, fuck. I was almost going to say the best writing of the year. It wasn't because another game is. But the writing in this game the localization specifically is fucking amazing. It is hilarious. There are so many references to like Mario lore and also like real world pop culture, thinly veiled. There was a weird ass Hitler reference that was super fucking weird and just tonally just out of whack. But they were really swinging for the fences with their references. And it wasn't a Hitler reference that was like, yay, Hitler. It was definitely not that, just for the record. It had fun side characters. My daughter got obsessed with Olivia, your main side character, and then Bobby the Bomb, who honestly is probably one of the better characters that I've seen in anything outside of my game of the year this year, just because of what they did. Like Nintendo was just like super introspective on like the life of a bomb and how they are created just to explode. And what happens if you sit with that and really think about it as the bomb or the bomb's friends. And then this fucking bomb commits suicide to save its friends. And then Mario and Olivia have to grapple with that. And it's just like heavy, super heavy in this like E for everyone game that like still affects my daughter. And we talk about Bobby the Bomb a lot, but there's a bunch of other fun side characters too. Like Chef Toad was a side character that whenever we're baking, she puts on her chef outfit and calls herself Chef Toad. It's really stuck with her. The boss battles were awesome. There were these ring kind of puzzles where you had to figure out how to get from the outside of the ring to the inside of the ring and basically negate the boss's buffs or debuff them, open different chests to get buffs for yourself. And use different elemental powers that you picked up throughout the game. You really had to think through the boss battles in order to make damage. It wasn't too onerous. It was just the right amount of challenge for what I would imagine to be like, like a 10-year-old working through this or whatever. It wasn't too hard. It was just the right mix of like challenge. The exploration was super fun. The worlds were really varied, and you were rewarded for kind of digging into different nooks and crannies, if only because you found another Toad who the only reward was the weird ass thing the Toad would say. There was one experience where you're on a mountaintop, and you don't have to do this, but there's a telescope there and you can look through it. And when you look through it, you just see an eye. You're like, what the fuck? And it's just a Toad stuck to the other side of the telescope, and he like peels himself off. He's like, oh my God, thanks for finding me, Mario. And he says some weird ass stupid shit. That's just hilarious. So the rewards in this game, I think some people were looking for like the RPG. They were still looking for the RPG from like Thousand Year Door or whatever. And it's no longer that. It's just an adventure game. But the rewards are the fucking writing, the jokes, the laughing, the characters. There were some neat puzzles along the way. There were a couple of temples that really were like Zelda-esque in terms of how to get through using different abilities to get through the temple to get to the boss or whatever. It just looked great. It looked like a storybook. Obviously because of the paper characters. Other than the non-boss battles being a complaint, not so much for me. It's just that the weapons and power-ups were super redundant. Like you could get like the regular hammer, or the iron hammer, or the spiky hammer, or the spiky boots, or the iron boots, or the regular boots, or the fireball, or the ice fireball. It's just like not really any real reason to like. You could get through the whole game using the standard weapons, and take a little longer, but it would not be a big deal at all. But overall, as a Nintendo experience, as a Mario specifically, a Mario experience, and like a love letter to Mario, like the milieu of Mario, like it was just a fantastic experience, and it really was like the my daughter's first real experience with a Mario story or with a Mario game at all. Like for us, it was like Mario Brothers or Mario 3 or whatever. This will be her first Mario game, and it's so interesting to think about it like that. And it just spawned months of play acting as Bobby the Bomb and Mario and Olivia and King Ollie. And then we got all these Mario Legos, and she played the shit out of Mario Legos and, carried Bobby the Bomb to bed every night. I'm trying to separate like the wonderful memories in this shitty quarantine year from like the actual game. But the game, other than that, non-boss battling, I think really fucking holds up and is really a special experience. And it was kind of nice for this joyful game to kind of hit in the middle of, 2020.
Yeah.
So that's my number 3.
Cool. I have to play it at some point. I think it's at this point they need to just not call the Paper Mario series RPGs anymore.
I'm not sure that they are.
They aren't. And the original one was talked as a sequel to the Super Mario RPG from the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
The original Paper Mario. And each version has gone less and less RPG.
Right.
Which is fine. Like at this point, I'm like, just don't even bring up the RPG roots anymore. Just, these are Mario adventure games, as you said.
Yep.
With some light combat, some light abilities and upgrades, but they are not deep RPGs. Like the Super Mario RPG on the SNES is a pretty fucking deep RPG. Square made that thing back in the day. Like, It's tried and true JRPG. So I think just going in with that perspective, being like, no, you're just playing a cute Mario adventure game with, who said, good writing. Way to go, Treehouse. They have,
oh my god,
with the writing and the localization for that, and like Animal Crossing, it's insane. They're so good.
they are on top of their game. They are so fucking good. And you're right, because I went into this game reading about the fans' discontent with where Paper Mario was going, and the whole idea of, if you go in with it as an adventure game, you're gonna love it. If you go in as an RPG, you're gonna fucking hate it. And I just go in as an adventure game, and it holds up. It's stellar. So I hope more people experience that game, especially if you're like a lifelong Nintendo fan or Mario fan. Like, you fucking owe it to yourself to like even just like watch a Let's Play of like one of the worlds and just get a feel for the writing, because I think you'd really want to play it.
Yeah.
So throwing to you for number 2.
Number 2. And so this is probably where my list, I don't know, maybe bends the rule a little bit, but I'm goddamn, I'm putting this on this list. My number 2 is Persona 5 Royal.
Oh no, you're fine. That doesn't.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk on this. Is an expansion, a Game of the Year edition of the thing that came out in 2018, 2017.
Yeah, I don't remember. 18 maybe.
But it's been a few years.
Yeah.
Is this version of the game? I've played through both of them, which is insane to think about. But I'm considering this as its own game of this year. And it is the best JRPG I've ever played. Still stands months later, after the fact. I'm like, I love this game. I love these characters. Even thinking about it makes me go, I'm going to replay this in the future at some point. Another 130 hours of playtime. But I'm going to, because I want to spend more time in the world with these characters. And Royal takes a good game and makes everything about it better. There is nothing that Royal makes worse. It only improves.
That is so good to hear.
It improves combat a ton. There's just a little bit more variety there. It's smooth there. There's a bunch better quality of life. And it hits you right from the start of the game. When you start it up again, picked it up, started playing through it. I'm in the opening tutorial segment area in the casino, and there's already twists to that, and introduced to new characters. And I was honestly cheering whenever I saw some new characters show up. It was great. The game has style beyond belief. Music
Oh
is
God,
still incredible. Art, the UI, everything just fits together so well.
there is not a more stylish game than Persona 5.
No, they nailed it. And I've gone back and I've started dabbling with Persona 4. I've put maybe an hour into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say it's hard to play that game because it is not nearly as stylish or cohesive artistically. And
Yep.
I get it came out in a different era for different platform. So like the way they do their stylized character models is very light-headed looking, very, and honestly, it kind of bugs me. I think the story will be good, but it's just I have to get over the look of the game because I don't particularly like the general look of it and the character design.
Yeah.
Where I really like the character designs in Persona 5. But beyond that, like I beat this entire thing. I platinumed it.
Did you platinum the original too?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that list was harder.
It was harder to do. I would have needed to do one more playthrough to platinum it on the original version. But at this point, I'm like, there is no reason or need to play the original version. Like, Royal is the definitive version of this game. The vision of what it's going to be, what it adds, the themes of its additional story are really compelling. It really closes the loop, the entire character's story nicely. It just, takes a lot of time to play. And I think that's going to be a negative for a lot of people, is that they're not going to have 130 hours, 140 hours to play a game. And there's not really a way to make it go faster because of how days play out in the game. Like, yeah, it's not I can just fast forward through things. Like, you have to do stuff. You have to do your school. You have to do your after school stuff and manage your time as the days go by. So sure, you might be able to trim 20 hours off that, so you're looking at 110 hours of game. But
and if you're at 110, might as well spool it out a little bit and enjoy it more.
So
did you have to use a guide to platinum this one?
I did use a guide to platinum this one.
Okay.
Because I didn't use one the first time through. And this time through, I was like, I'm just going to use something that tells me in my free time what I should do.
Yeah.
So I don't miss anything. But it wasn't a spoiler guide.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter there. And I will say that the new semester, you don't have a lot of extra time to even spend doing stuff. Like, it's you're going from dungeon to dungeon to doing different things, like character choices and everything. It was really cool. It really is probably what is my favorite JRPG I've ever played. And I cannot wait for whatever they do with Persona 6, and I get Strikers here next month to tide me over.
A Muso game. You're so into this that you're going to play a fucking Muso game.
I will play a fucking Muso game. And I get to hear Matt Mercer again. So,
who does he play in Persona 5?
Yusuke, which you'd get to later if you haven't played farther. It's a character that probably shows up 20 hours in.
Yeah, I'm probably probably 15 in on the base game, and I'm obviously going to start over on the Royal.
Yeah, so it's a roller coaster of a game that touches on a lot of subjects I really enjoy. I would say thematically and storytelling, sometimes it's not nuanced in its themes. It's like, rebellion, injustice, and fuck the adults. But sometimes why does it need to be nuanced? It just wants to wear its feelings on its sleeve. And sometimes that's really nice when things are trying to be super obtuse about what they're about. It's like, no, we're going to tell you exactly what we're about, and you're either in or you're out. We don't care. So yeah, that is my number 2.
Do you one question you might not be able to answer, but thinking about Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal, like, are those two versions like the versions that they had in their heads, and then they had to put out 4 and 5 to like ship something, and then they just kept working on the game they wanted to finish? Or
maybe I don't know. I honestly don't know what the reasoning completely is. I mean, there is a reasoning that Atlas is like, hey, we can't spend 7 years making a game to put out one game. Yeah. Like, we can spend 4 years putting out a game, and then you can do a better version a couple years later.
Right. They kind of get double the money. So
they do. Maybe not double, but but I'm not sure if everyone. I know plenty of people now. Couple people now that I've known that are like, when Persona 5 first came out, they're like, I'm not going to buy it now. I'm going to wait a few years because they assume they assume there'd be another version coming, because I think they did the same thing with Persona 3 as well.
Mm.
It's just how the Personas go. And yeah, maybe it's a little double dipping, but as of owning both and playing both, I don't feel like I've been ripped off. Like, I enjoyed Persona 5 when I played it
Yeah.
years ago and had a great time. And I had an even better time with Royal. And I'm happy that I got to play it a couple of years ago, and I got happy I got to play this one.
Well, and I picked up 5 for half price, and I picked up
Yeah.
Royal for half price. So I basically paid full price for both. Like,
Yeah.
one paying for one full price to get both.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to digging into that.
Yeah.
This is a year. I'm hoping this is a year where I play my backlog and not get stuck buying new games. Like, I will buy new Nintendo games and not the rest. But that's insane because if Silksong comes out this year, I'm fucking dropping everything for Silksong. Of course. God, I hope so. That Edge magazine article with all the information makes me think maybe this year.
Maybe.
I don't know. Game of the year 2021 Silksong. I'm calling it. For me, number 2 for a lot of the year, I thought this was going to be number 1, and it was still number 1 up until like 3 weeks ago. But number 2 is Ghost of Tsushima. I fucking fell in love with this game. I put 60, 70 hours into this game. This was the game that I committed to every night that I played. It was every other night that I would play, and I would just put 2 or 3 hours into it and just steadily work through the game. And after 2.5, 3 months, I got through it. It was with me for a long time, and it still stuck with me. I really like the combat. I like the different stances. I like that you can have kind of like the showdown.
Yes.
What it was called, the face off. And then you could be stealthy, or you could just go in and just like wreck shit up. I thought the art style was really amazing, especially the landscapes. Really gave me a Breath of the Wild vibe in terms of kind of like an artistic take on grasses and trees, and it didn't look like Breath of the Wild, but it felt like it. I thought the side characters were really cool. I loved Yuna specifically. I really enjoyed digging into their side quests. They were like 11-part side quests throughout the 3 islands or the 3 acts, and you learned a little bit more about them each time, and it was kind of like a roller coaster. It didn't really go in one straight A to B arc. It kind of just like was a jagged peak up and down, up and down. It was little small surprises that I really enjoyed. You mentioned it already, but it is just like open world perfection. They refined everything. They still couldn't get rid of the redundant side shit like the fucking fox dens. There could have been like 10 of those overall instead of however many they needed you to upgrade your charms or whatever. Too many charms, too many fox dens, but that's also kind of part of open world. It's like too many of things. And it kind of drug the experience, the pacing down a bit, because I think like you, I would do everything in an island before I moved on to the next one. So that's kind of on me a little bit. I really like that when you I'm going to be vague here. When you platinum the game, you get an item that signifies that you can display. That is pretty cool. It's kind of a nice nod to like, hey, you fucking earned this. And then I really like when the game is done, when you go quote unquote home after the game is done, and what's there is like, I'm trying to think if anyone else has done something similar, and I'm sure that this has happened, and I'm trying not to spoil it for you, but when you are done and you kind of like populate back into the world to like go and do it, roam around and do it free roam, where they put you and what's in that place is so fucking cool, and so emotional that it was just like something that I will remember as a capstone to the whole experience. And I hope you get there.
So when you beat it and it puts you back in, is it post? Mm-hmm. Does it put you in post story basically? Like,
yes,
you've completed the story. You're free to move on now. But what you did happened. We're not reverting it back to like a pre-end game state.
The only thing that's odd about that is for a completionist like me, I cleared out all the Mongol areas, but there are still Mongols. So it's like, no, I cleared the island. Why are there still Mongols here? But otherwise, I guess, what would you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I had literally done everything and then went to the final boss, or the whole final everything.
Yeah.
Which is also super emotional, and I hope you get there. There's a choice you have to make that is like, I made the choice differently than Brad or Travis did, which was interesting. But yeah, for the most part, you did what you did.
Okay.
You have to, because I assume there's a sequel, and it follows along with that. But it doesn't put you to like before the final battle or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's all done. They're all dead or not. UI is cool. It's very clean. The follow the wind thing was awesome. You would just swipe up on the touchpad and then just be blown, or the wind would blow where you should go, and that's all you need. Just a little hint, and that's it. Two more things. One you mentioned was the ghost stance. Getting the ghost stance was fucking like the ultimate like combat form. And you're right. Once you get that, you're like, there's nowhere to go. There's no up to go to from here, other than like kind of mixing and matching charms for different battles or whatever. Which those samurai battles were, the Ronin battles were fucking awesome as well. And the last thing is your relationship with your horse is cool. What they do with you and your horse throughout that game, like the little nods after different battles where you're like with your horse eating an apple or petting them or sleeping on them or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what happens? I don't know how far you've gotten in the relationship with your horse.
Probably if it says stuff in Act 3, I don't know.
Okay. So stuff that happens with your horse is cool. And the way that they deal with that is also cool. I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Having, grown up riding horses and being around horses, I thought it was a cool touch. The only negative I have about this fucking game is the fox dens. Everything else is awesome. I loved the shrines, kind of like platforming puzzles.
Yep.
I got super excited when I'd see a Torii gate and be like, all right, here's another one. I never got tired of those. Just get rid of the fox dens, and this is like 10 out of 10 perfect game.
Yeah, just do
in terms
something
of
a little different with those. Or
God,
if you have them not just, I don't know, just have some variation to them, if anything.
Variation, or like 5 per region. Like just,
yeah.
I get what you're doing, but goddamn, 47 or whatever there were, it was just too many. Yeah, but that's my number 2, and it's a game that I've started a New Game Plus on. I don't usually do that, and I'm enjoying that. Kurosawa mode was cool too. I played the whole thing in Japanese, and I dip into Kurosawa mode and back, and it was cool. I wouldn't play the whole thing in Kurosawa mode, but playing it all in Japanese was really cool. But playing it in English now is great because there were some things they didn't dub or subtitle in Japanese, or in English. So talking to your horse, I didn't know what you're fucking saying to your horse the whole game. And I still understood they were communicating to each other, but I didn't know what the fuck he was saying. And then some things that the Mongols are saying to each other, I don't really hear. But when I'm playing in English now, I do. So anyway, my number 2, I had a fantastic time. That was like my July, September, October game. And super, super enjoyed it.
Nice. Well, I think I know what number 1 is.
I think we have the same number 1 if we haven't mentioned this game.
Yeah, so my number 1 is Hades.
And mine as well. God damn, dude. What a game.
We talked about, what a game. We talked about hours played. This is where I can say, before we're recording, Persona 5 Royal and Hades together equal about 300 hours of gameplay this year.
Dang.
I've put 170 hours into Hades.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
And I just played it one more run before we recorded tonight. I just was like, I need to refresh myself. And you've succeeded, had a success once, so I can actually talk to you basically about this. I was at 12 heat. I was doing a 12 heat run.
Oh, man.
The highest heat I've ever done successfully is 16. And then where I hit my wall and where I had been working towards is 32 heat. Because 32 heat is like is a challenge point. If you can beat 32 heat with any weapon, you get a statue you can build. It's the last thing that you can get for your Den of Hades or whatever. House of Hades. But you have to do 32 heat. 32 heat is fucking hard.
Yeah, no.
I've made it to Hades once at 32 heat. So yeah, Hades is absolutely incredible. Every category, its mechanics, its story, its art, its music, its sound, voice acting, all top tier. Hands down better than anything else I've played this year. And probably played in many years.
I was about to say the same thing. Like in the past 5 years, has there been a game better than this?
I don't think so.
Think of one. I really can't. And I've fucking loved games in the last 5 years, and this tops everything.
It's an incredible thing, and I'm happy that you've played more of it, and you've hit that point where it has its hooks into you. Like,
once
hard.
Once I figured out Theseus and God damn, I keep the bull. Asterius? No.
Yeah.
Theseus and Asterius.
Asterius.
Once I figured out that fight, like that was the when the whole game unpacked and unwound, and I just it clicked. I got it, and I can consistently get there, kick their ass. Whereas a week ago, I was complaining to you how I'd always get my ass kicked there, and now it's just like hard-ish, but doable. Like I get out of there with all my depth defiances. I don't usually die there now. I can get to Hades consistently with basically all my depth defiance and all my health. And then today was the first time where I only died once at Hades, and I still had 2 depth defiance left, and it was like, look, this all of a sudden is easier than it was yesterday.
It's all clicking.
You
It's
know,
all
it's
coming
muscle
together.
memory, but
Yeah.
oh god, and you get the right boons. Like the boon synergy in this game is like when it hits, it is just such a gaming high. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I should say, like that run I did before I did 12 Heat, I died on Hades, but I knew I was going to, by the end of Elysium, I was like, my build just didn't come together. I was like,
Right.
I got myself to Hades, but I knew that there was likely no way I was going to beat him with the hodgepodge of boons that I had unfortunately got. And I was trying to do a very specific build.
You can feel it though. You can feel it when they come together or when they're not.
When they're not coming
you're
together,
just
you're like, fuck.
You know, in Elysium, if you're wrecking shit, it's just like, okay, this is good. Versus like, it's taking me a while to get through this room. I did it, but it wasn't clean.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a successful run.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because if you die, you go back and you get story beats. You upgrade things. Like there's so many rewards for losing. It's unbelievable.
Yep. And it keeps going and going. I think at this point I still have a few more things I could grind to buy for the House of Hades. But I've maxed all of my companion relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I have not maxed all my weapons. I've unlocked everything. I've maxed most aspects, but there's still a few aspects here and there where I need to dump blood into to max them. Mm-hmm. Like I've done a lot in this game, and it still feels fresh. Playing that run tonight, I was like, God damn, this is good. Like, it just feels so good to play. And then
still getting...
Go ahead.
Are you still getting new dialogue?
Yes.
Jeez.
Not completely all the time, but every once in a while. Like, I got a new Thanatos dialogue when I found a Thanatos room as I was doing my run, and when I finished it, yeah, he said new dialogue to me. I was like, that's cool. Thumbs up, dude. Let's... again, because your relationship builds on these things, and there's a bunch of dialogues hidden behind different relationship levels. And dialogue hidden behind all sorts of things. Like, so you're playing it through this. I assume you're not increasing your heat yet.
I did. After I beat Hades, the next run I turned the heat up to 1 and got to Hades and died with... He had like a sliver of health left. And if I hadn't turned up the heat, I would have probably beat him.
So the only one I would recommend when you're starting out and want to up your heat at least to 1, do Extreme Measures 1.
Which one's that? The boss mechanics?
Bosses are different.
Okay.
I just think the boss changes are really fun.
Okay.
But they increase it, like it's 1 point and changes the Fury fight. And then it's another 2 points, so it'd go to a total of 3 for Hydra fight being changed. 6 points total for Theseus fight. And then it takes many things to do, because you can't unlock Extreme Measures 4, which is Hades change, until you do other things. That is really fucking hard. Fun, really fun. But yeah, if you thought the Hades fight was a bit of a challenge now, oh boy, Extreme Measures 4.
Well, and the way that has worked out for me, like just think about a week ago, my conversations with you or with Bill, it's just like I'm getting my ass handed to me. And now when I get to Hades, like that's not the case. Like I've got the mechanics, I've got, it's not too hard to dance around him, get the hits, dance around, get the hits. Yep. I'm more consistently beating him than not now.
And which is great.
But I've only got 5 successful runs so far.
Yeah, you're working through it. And I think that's this incredible thing about it, where when you talk about writing, the writing in this game is incredible for how it wraps it into a roguelike. And a roguelike that has story that pushes you forward and characters that are pushing you forward. Win or lose, you're getting story and getting progression in narrative. But it's weird how compelling the narrative is to me when I objectively look at the game and go, the pacing is really slow. But I care. I care so much. And I will tell you, when you get to that final successful run and you finish the, like, I use quotes around finish because I don't actually think when you get the credits is the end of the game. It might be the end of one part of the story, but there's still, I feel like it's the end of Act 2 and there's still an Act 3 post. I think they just call it the prologue, but I feel like it thematically fits the game to finish out Act 3, which is after the credits. But my God, did I feel that end. And was I so happy to get that ending and how it all played out. So it says something about that game of just being like, yeah, it slowly builds all these connections, but you really feel the story beats and you really feel the connections to the characters.
Well, the way the story, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but having talked to Bill about this and realizing the thing that I didn't realize, I've been saving all my nectar so that I could find the person that I hadn't met yet so I can get the fucking keepsake. Turned out, by the way, I had 2 left. One was Chaos. I never gave him one. So I gave him one today. And I was like, oh, Chaos, duh. So there's one left on the bottom row where you have like Patroclus and Sisyphus and Eurydice. So there's one missing there. So apparently I'm missing somebody. Not sure who that would be, but if like maybe it's Hades. I don't know who the fuck it is. But it seems like it'd be like that class of character where it's like the one room you can find in some of your runs where it's like that NPC. But he was saying like maximize giving nectar to those characters first, Sisyphus and Patroclus and Eurydice, because it advances the story. And I don't know if it's tied to the nectar or not, but I didn't realize that. So I've been focusing on them and like building the story up of like Achilles and Patroclus and Eurydice and Orpheus. Like shit, like this is just one small like branch of the story of this game, and I'm like super invested in those and like advancing them.
So there's those.
It's fucking cool.
But if you give nectar to like Meg, there's a whole story around Meg that you start building around. Thanatos the same way. Like all the characters, you give them nectar and stuff. Like the characters that are part of the house for the most part, and then out in the runs, there's story built all around them. The only ones that don't have like direct story a lot of times are the Olympian gods. Like you give it to them, you increase like work towards making their, I don't even know,
like rare boons or something like that.
No, it doesn't even make rare boons. It's just you get new dialogues and talks. And I will say that there are some weird story beats that go on between them and the gods of the underworld as well. Like I don't know, there's a whole like passing notes back and forth between
Hermes and like the Hermes thing, or no,
there's another one that happened much later, and I was like, what the fuck is this? This is hilarious. Yeah, there's all sorts of there's storyline between Nyx and Chaos that you unlock over time.
I just got another thread of that. I was like, oh, there's something here. Like, so I'm just what I'm kind of trying to say is like I'm at like hour 38, and I'm just now realizing that those smaller stories, there's way more to it than I thought. Like I basically have given like one nectar to everybody and was just stockpiling them.
Yeah,
waiting for like someone else to give them to. But like, just fucking give them away to like those 4, those NPCs and Sisyphus and whatever they're called.
Yep.
First, but
Sisyphus is fun. Yeah. You should just. There's no reason to stockpile nectars for the most part. Just keep them around. Yeah. I usually kept a few around so that I would have some to give to people I wanted to in runs. Mm-hmm. But then if I had any kind of extras, I would just be dumping them into anyone who wanted them in the house. I'd be like, talk to me. Give me more stuff. Let's go.
Right.
Because, there's a huge amount of story and side stories. Every character has a story. And they're pretty compelling and very interesting.
I am really looking forward to the Hades story because I know there's something there, and I'm waiting for that to turn or twist or something. I hope it does, beyond what it is on the surface. So,
I mean, where is it at for you right now with 4 wins?
It was basically that he had said that the fates had told him that Zagreus was going to die, so he believed he was going to die, and Persephone felt like he had lied to her, but he didn't because he actually believed that. And it was Nyx that like used everything to bring him back, Zag back to life. But Persephone had left before he had come back to life. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the last thing was when Zag came out of the blood, he said, Father purposely wanted Persephone to leave. And that's the last story hook there.
Yeah, you're getting through it. I will also say that because that just sparked an interesting piece there. Zagreus is like the best person ever, god ever. You'll get into all these stories and stuff, and you're just like, yeah, he has father issues. Him and his dad do not get along. But for everyone else, I'm like, wow, you've written someone who is truly compassionate. And you'll get deeper into these storylines, and you're like, oh, I could see someone who would write a response line that added like drama and want to like amp things up. That's not Zagreus.
Yeah.
Like at all. He's very much like, I understand you. I understand what you're going through. And
Right.
in a year of like 2020, it was really nice to see a main character that wasn't toxic at all. Because he's not.
Maybe that's part of the draw of it for me. Because I think I've talked to you, I've talked to other people specifically about not being able to watch high stress media and drama. Drama is really hard for me to watch right now. Like I kind of have to like distract myself. If my wife wants to watch a drama with me, like I would just like half pay attention because I seriously, it's overload. I can't handle it. And this, you're right. Yeah, Zagreus doesn't bring drama.
He tries to quell it. He does not want drama. He wants to give to the people around him and make their lives better.
Right.
And in turn, making their lives better makes they reciprocate back to him on making his life better and the whole thing. And it is a weird game of like, as you play through and you get all these story beats, it is a really feel good game, which is crazy to say about Greek gods, but it is.
It is, and it's kind of what's that ludo narrative or whatever, where like the gameplay feels good. I don't know if it exactly matches the feel good of the dialogue because you're killing fucking dead things, but I walk away from that game feeling happy and joyful. And I've done that with Astro's Playroom, Mario, Sackboy, which if I had played more of that would be on this list because Sackboy, like as it unspools, is fucking good. I just gravitated towards joyful things. As you're like No Man's Sky, like the Sentinels, like I avoid that shit like the plague because it stresses me out. And otherwise, it's like a really fun, joyful experience for me. Spider-Man was the same way. That was super joyful. Yeah. Maybe that's the through line for me is just joyful experiences.
Yeah. And I don't think, and as you put it, 80s from its mechanics and its narrative, which is the Ludo narrative. There is not really usually hear that in Ludo narrative dissonance. With Bioshock Infinite being a big staple of that, of being like, the gunplay in Bioshock Infinite doesn't feel like it's meshing with the story so well. A lot of times, and the violence of it.
I feel like Uncharted is also brought up in that same conversation.
Yeah, and sometimes it is. Hades does not have dissonance in it. Like every aspect of Hades feeds into every other aspect of it, and it fits together like a perfect puzzle. They spent all those years in early access just fine tuning this, and then all the years Supergiant made games to get to this point where they could make something like this.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like I didn't finish Bastion, but I liked what I played. I fucking loved Transistor.
Yep.
Like loved Pyre. The sports thing I just never got into it. I think I should probably get another chance. But this like is one of my favorite games of all time. Like this is a game. I was thinking about like what this and Ghost and going back and forth, and it's like, which game am I going to be playing in 5 years? I'm still going to be playing Hades in 5 years, just like I played Diablo 3 right now, or Witcher 3, or Mass Effect 2, or Rocket League. Like there are games that or Mario 3 that just stick with you for life as a gamer, and this is going to be one of them. Whereas the rest of the ones on my list here are not going to be, even though I think they're great games.
Yeah, it's the same with me. Like, this is a game that is going to stick with me for a long time, that I will continue to revisit over the years. And it's amazing that it got made. I'm amazed that it came out as well as it did. We've just been talking a lot about, like, story and mechanics. The art is incredible.
And horny as fuck.
It is so thirsty. So thirsty.
So many thirst traps throughout this game.
Yes. And they play into it as well at times. It's great. Hello, Aphrodite.
I was going to say
Aphrodite. But I mean, how could you not do Aphrodite as that?
Yeah. I think they did it in a tasteful way.
They did.
Even though it was like the obvious choice, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that it's distasteful to that character. They didn't.
No.
Goddess of Love, what do you expect? But there's all the character portraits are great. But again, going back to the run before, I was just like, God, there's so many little details to the environments and the character model as you're playing, the attack effects, just attention to detail is through the roof on so many aspects of the art.
And you know what's crazy about that? Having played the Switch version for the first time today, almost none of that gets lost. There are a couple of moments like when Zagreus dies or when you beat a boss and there's like that splash screen with the blood or the fire or whatever that's like super pixelated and muddy. And I'm not sure why that is. But the rest of the game like comes across almost exactly like I don't notice any major differences. There might be obviously in terms of I don't know, resolution or whatever. But thinking about games that I have on Switch that are on other platforms like Witcher 3 or Divinity Original Sin 2, they're noticeably different. Hades isn't, and it's weird how it plays fucking perfectly on Switch. It doesn't seem to be very many, if any, compromises that I've noticed. I should have been playing on Switch. I could play on my big screen. I've been playing on my laptop, which is fine. It's great. But it's perfectly competent on the Switch and beyond competent. It's great.
Yeah, I need to pick it up and play it there too. So I could put another 100 hours into it. I don't know. Why not?
Well, no, that's the problem, right? Because I was out today. I was like, I want to play like a story-rich like RPG, and I'm like, I have Hades. Oh God, I didn't get away from Hades. That's all I want to play, and now I can play on the go, and it's fucking superb.
Yeah. Game of the year? Beyond
a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Like game of the year. There's nothing else that I would say that we haven't already said. Everything's. I guess I'm wondering what. Okay, think about Breath of the Wild, and like 2 or 3 years later, we get like Genshin Impact and Immortals, Phoenix Rising, and even to some extent Ghost of Tsushima. Like, what are people going to do to iterate on this idea?
I don't know.
Of death in a roguelite means story advancement, like the narrative.
I think there will be people that are going to do this. Like, clearly, this has taken the roguelite genre to currently its pinnacle, and of course, people will build from it. But I don't think. I think there's going to be a lot of people trying to imitate this that are going to fail really hard, and it's going to be really noticeable when it fails. Because I don't think this is an easy path to walk to make a roguelike that has story like this, and I don't think there's a lot of places that would make a roguelike that have the money to do what Supergiant did here.
Right.
There's no one of the reasons why the story works is because everything is voice acted very well. The music is incredible. The art is incredible. It honestly, in a lot of ways, is greater than the sum of its parts. And its parts are really good, are great in most cases. Yet the game as a whole is better than all of them. And I just don't think a lot of studios will be able to emulate that at all.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
They're going to try. You're going to try, and you're going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also now know I don't know if I really want to play a roguelike that doesn't have this stuff in it.
It does kind of kill roguelites. Like if I think about the last roguelite that I enjoyed, Dead Cells. Like I put like 20, 25 hours into that game and really enjoyed it. It doesn't hold a candle to this game. It doesn't even get close, and I think it's great. And it's yeah.
If presented with those two games, I'd be like, I'm going to play Hades every time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know where this goes. It's an incredible achievement, though. And really, I can't believe I put 170 hours into this game. It's just
I can believe it. It's a triumph.
It's a ridiculous amount of hours when I went into Epic and was like, show me how many days I've played this. And yeah, I don't know. And I had good time through all of it is the thing. Like, I can't think of any bad times I had playing this game. Yeah, I beat my head at the beginning to beat the Hades. I think it took me almost 30 runs before I ever beat him.
Yeah, that's about where I was at. About 20. I'm at 35 now, and I beat him around 28.
Yeah. And it was like a wall over and over, but I didn't stop. I didn't want to stop. I wanted to keep playing. So yeah, I don't even know where Supergiant goes after this.
I wonder the same thing. Are they like making an expansion for this, or what are they doing?
I don't know, because they have been clear. They've never made an expansion for any game that they've made.
That's true.
Ever. And they've stated they're like 1. Because people are like, are you not holding things back for 1.0, but do you have more things that you want to put in the game? And they're like, no, if we did, we wouldn't have shipped 1.0.
Right.
Like, we would have taken more time. They're like, what we shipped is our entire vision of the game. But I don't know if it's done well enough where they're like, maybe we could do some more here.
That's kind of where I'm at, is like, you could make some more money off this game.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave that on the table, I think.
Kind of.
But without diluting your vision, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, there's the obvious things of like, do they want to add additional gods for boons, new weapons? But again, do they need to add story? And maybe, like, and the story is kind of done when I finished everything. Like, so I don't know. I'm waiting to see what the final no clip doc on it has to say, because there's one more that they're making right now.
Oh wow.
That deals with post-release of Hades. There's a whole series of no clip docs.
Right. I'm hoping they have like a bit on the reception that's getting now.
I think that is. I think that's part of
it.
Is just general reception after release and sales and all this talk of accolades that it's getting. But I'm hoping in there they'll discuss more, like, hey, maybe we'll do more, or they'll be like, no, this really is the game. We're done. We're going to make something new now. Because they are they're a one-game studio. Do not work on more than one game at a time.
Well, and it's just like, it feels greedy to be like, oh, I want more of this. Like, this is a perfect experience that I'm not going to get to 170 hours in this game for a while, but I'm hoping to stick with it for a very long time, as long as it's rewarding me in that way. But I would also like to see what's next. But then I think back to, like, I felt that way after Transistor, and then Pyre was not it for me, and I feel like I need to go back and give it another chance. But I don't know, like, I own all their games, and this is like the leap forward from Pyre to, like, this is astounding to me, even from Transistor to this.
Yeah, no, it is. Although there's elements of all their games in Hades, and Pyre is a lot of the lore. They learned a lot about how to really write. They didn't voice act it in Pyre, but they learned how to make some pretty interesting large variety of characters, interconnected stories.
I just can't imagine I don't know if you've seen anything about stats about how long the script is for this game.
I did, and it was huge.
Okay.
They gave an interview at one point. There it is. Hades dev shares stats on massive script. 305,433 words.
Holy shit, that's huge. That is massive.
21,020 voiced lines.
That is bigger than a Game of Thrones, which is about 200,000, 180,000.
Yeah.
Wow, that's massive. And that's like, lines being doled out in like 2 or 3 sentences, right? So that's just huge amounts of dialogue for all characters.
So yeah, that's 305,000 words, and 21,000 voiced lines. 21,000 voiced lines in that game.
Crazy. And the voice acting is really strong, really good. In these kind of games, I read way faster than someone talks, so I'll have read it before they're finished with their first sentence, but I just let it play out because I loved listening to it.
Let's see. Oh, there's some more stats that they put out. This was on December 29th. Zagreus had 8,500 voice lines.
Wow.
Hades has 1,600.
And that's Darren Korb, right?
Yeah, Darren Korb is Zagreus and Skelly.
Yeah.
And he did all the music, and he did all the sound mixing.
Unbelievable. That guy's crazy.
Sleep. Like,
sorry, I interrupted you. Hades has
1,600 voiced lines. Let's see what other fun stats here. Tsephone only has 190 voiced lines. Murder.
I was going to say, isn't she the murder one?
Yep. Although that's fun. Just keep on getting her and playing. Like, it's so good.
Does it ever get past murderer? Because now it's on to murderer.
Oh, yeah. No, it progresses. It progresses over your hundreds of runs. It changes.
Awesome.
Charon has 120 lines. Not shocking.
Oh, dude. Charon, by the way, I was like, I'm not going to steal from him. This new option appeared. That's a bad idea. And then one day I was like, I just want to see what happens. Wow. I got my ass handed to me.
Yep.
Oh, God.
There you go. It's a new challenge.
Shit.
I beat him a couple times. I mean, it's always optional. It's always, I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I have a build that I feel like confident. And I know his attack patterns now, so I'm better at it. But yeah, he hits like a truck. And it's a pretty challenging fight. But if you win, it's worth it. So worth it for the run.
I guess I'll have to figure out what that is when I beat him.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a huge game. Really, it's weird that the game, whenever you first look at it, looks probably small in some scope. You're like, okay, yep, roguelike, just gonna go through the dungeon room by room, get to the boss, win. And then it just branches out, and it's an enormous game.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
And like unbelievably deserving of every game of the year it's winning, including ours. So we will, continue to talk about this game in the new year, of course.
Yeah. So our top three: Hades won with 10 points.
Ghost of Tsushima with 6 points, right? 4-2. Yep.
Yep. And then Persona 5 Royal with 4.
Nice.
That Hades and Ghost of Tsushima are our only overlapping games.
Right. Yeah, that's a good list, man. I know if I had played Royal this year, it'd be on my list as well. So
yeah,
hopefully this year. 140 hours. That's just like an hour. That's an hour a night for half the year.
There you go. Because you totally stop at an hour, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh man. Well, we hope everyone has a better 2021 than we all had 2020, of course. And we'll be here talking about games for as long as you'll have us. If you like us, please tell your friends, rate us on your podcast service of choice. Hope you hit all your gaming resolutions. I know that I will fail at my one resolution very quickly, but I'm gonna try.
What is your resolution?
My resolution is to not buy new games this year until I make a significant dent in my backlog. The games that I want to play.
Silk Song's coming out.
I know, but then I'm like, oh, except for Nintendo games and except for Silk Song. I'm like, okay, you fucking idiot. You've already broken it.
Yeah, you're like, you can't make this resolution. There's no way you're doing it.
I'm not going to make it past February with Mario World and Bowser's Fury because I'm definitely buying that game. So
Mass Effect trilogy?
Maybe I'll buy less.
Yeah, are you going to buy the Mass Effect trilogy?
Fuck. Yes, of course I am. Although technically it's my backlog because I own all those games already, which is even stupider.
Technically, yeah.
Yes, I'm absolutely going to buy that.
Yeah, I'm just I'm looking at what's coming out this year. Potentially God of War Ragnarok.
I don't believe that for a second. I really don't.
I think COVID's going to have an issue, make that one have issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to look up. Silk Song, potentially. Weird. People are saying that Horizon Forbidden West is this year.
It is, yeah. Summer. I don't know if it's summer, but it's...
Well, shit.
Very likely this year. They already said 2021, but it feels like it's actually really, really going to be 2021.
Holy shit. I was just putting that one out far future, not I'll be playing that potentially this year. So yeah, I think it's a hard resolution to keep. I'll be honest.
Yep. Like all mine. Terrible resolutions. Never keep them. Maybe spend less.
There you go. That's the better thing. I've had that resolution, and that's actually worked out.
Yeah. Although I guess I should probably admit that I bought Umurangi Generation as we were recording this podcast, so I already broke my resolution.
God damn it.
I've heard it on too many Game of the Year lists, and then it's on sale on Steam, so I figured I'd pick it up.
Okay.
And there you go. I suck with money. I broke the resolution as I was saying that I was going to keep the resolution, so that's just terrible. All right. Anything else for the good of the podcast?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks for Hades talk this year. The most obvious. We knew this for months ahead of time that this would be our number one.
I knew it was going to be my number one. I didn't know if it was going to be yours or not.
I didn't know until the last 3 weeks, really. Until I would sit down. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was that. I was like, I don't know if you're coming back to it, really. And I knew if you came back to it and gave it a chunk of hours, it would get your hooks into, just like it does with everybody. But you have to give it that time.
Yeah.
And you had so much other stuff you were jumping between. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing is I wanted to dabble in all these things to see which one grabbed me to, have this discussion. And then I was like, oh, I'll try that one again. Okay. And then I couldn't play anything else for the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Which is just great. What a great game.
Yeah, it is.
And it's super good on Switch. Oh, so good. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This is episode 274, Game of the Year discussion part 2. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next week where we'll be talking about that Nintendo Direct that's happening this week. Surely.
Sure.
We're getting back into that.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks.
Later, all.
See ya.